Good evening and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation Public Information Meeting for project number 51276, the replacement of bridge number 2110. It's located on Route 10 over a stream in the town of Farmington. My name is Leslie Ruiz and I am a project engineer with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I would like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, and we hope this presentation is informative and we are able to answer all of your questions. And I want to mention that a recording of this presentation will be posted after the live event. Um, if you need to view the captions or subtitles to locate them, uh, sorry, you go to the captioning feature in Zoom, click on the show captions. It's located in the toolbar, and then click on the speaking language and select your preferred language. And before I get into the presentation and introduce the project team, I would like to explain tonight's format. We first are going to have a short presentation, about 25 minutes. And once the presentation is completed, we will host a live question and answer session. And so a voluntary post-meeting survey is available at the link posted below. The results of this survey will help us improve these public meetings going forward. And also the civil rights notice to the public is available at the link that we're posting below as well. And both of these links are located on the project webpage, which I'll go over in a little bit. I think we'll have it later on. Title 6, Notice to the Public, which states that the Connecticut Department of Transportation operates its programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin. In accordance with Title 6 of the Civil Rights Act, any person who believes she or he has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under Title 6 may file a complaint with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, Federal Transit Administration, or the Federal Highway Administration. And we also have it translated into Spanish. So you have three means of communicating with us during the live question and answer session. The first is by sending an email to the project email address, which is dot.project0051-0276@ct.gov. The second is by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. And please include the project number, which is 51276, and your contact information. You may be able to ask questions or provide comments through these two options all the way through November 6th. And after that, we close out on November 6th, but for tonight, we have the Zoom Q&A tool, which we're going to go over on the next slide, how to access that. So here, you can go to the Q&A feature, then click on the Q&A in the toolbar. This will bring up the window that you see to your right. And in that window, you can type on the text box and you can send, and that will post a question, and we will be responding to all the questions in the order we receive them. And this feature is only available during tonight's presentation. And now to introduce the project team. We're going to start with the Department of Transportation. We have Bart Sweeney. He's the Division Chief of Bridges. Next to Bart is Derek Lazar. Derek is our principal engineer. In our group is the consultant bridge design consultant liaison engineering program. Then we have Brianna Ritaco. She's our supervising engineer. Myself, Leslie Ruiz, I'm a project engineer. And from the Office of Rights of Way, we have Kathleen Erickson, and she's a property agent. And Klaus Jensen Miller is the consultant liaison engineer on this project. And we'll work with the Connecticut Department of Transportation to provide project oversight through the design and the construction of the project. Mark Levesque, he's the program manager, and he will be the MC for tonight's question and answer session. And Jonathan Corelli, he is the liaison engineer, and he's going to be going in more detail about the project in a couple seconds. And Western Sampson engineers, they are the design consultant for this project. And Jonathan, you can start with your portion of the presentation now.
Okay, thank you, Leslie, for the introductions. Yeah, I'm Jonathan Curley. I work with Clochance and Miller as the project engineer for this project. So to start with the project location, this Bridge 2110 is about approximately 1/4 mile north of US Highway 6 and about a mile south of the intersection of Route 10 with State Route 4. Looking in aerial view, north in this case is to the right. We have Route 10 and that runs north-south. The bridge is about 75 feet south of the intersection with Tonksett Street, and it provides crossing over an unnamed stream, which flows from the bottom to the top in this photo. The existing structure, Bridge 2110, was constructed in 1924. It's a 5.5 foot wide by 4 foot high reinforced concrete arch under approximately 15 feet of fill. It currently has reinforced concrete head walls and wing walls, a drainage outlet adjacent to the northwest wing wall, a drainage swale along the southeast embankment. It carries one 11-foot travel lane in each direction for an average daily traffic of 12,200 vehicles. And as you can see here to the left, it currently has a 4.5 foot wide depressed sidewalk along the west edge of roadway. This bottom photo here is a typical shot of inside the culvert. These are two existing structure elevations. On the left is the east elevation or the inlet elevation, and to the right is the west elevation or the outlet elevation. Looking along Route 10 on the left, we have looking south across the culvert. You'll see here in the center of the roadway, there's a significant patching done to this particular spot. That's the exact location where the culvert crosses Route 10. There's a depression there due to some material washing through the top of the culvert, which I'll explain on the next couple slides. To the right here, this is looking north. Again, you can see the patch in the roadway to locate where the culvert is in relation to the roadway. The existing structure, as I mentioned, is a reinforced concrete arch culvert. It goes through the full width of Route 10. There's a drainage and wall and swale along the southeast section of the culvert, which provides outlet drainage to Route 10. And then one 4.5 foot sidewalk along the west edge of roadway here that's depressed and separated from the current roadway. So the purpose of this project is to address the existing structural and hydraulic deficiencies of the culvert by complete culvert replacement. The existing culvert is currently rated a 4 or in poor condition. There is a full length fracture from the inlet open up to 2.5 inches wide with a bit of vertical displacement, as you can see here in the bottom photo. It's separated from the top. It has allowed fill material above to wash through, which has caused the depression in the roadway. There's been several maintenance projects done in 2022 to increase the rating from a 2 to a 4 that involves patching in the roadway, installations of additional concrete within the arch culvert, improvement of the embankment with riprap and other items. This culvert itself is also very much undersized for the design storm. So this is the second part of the purpose and need to address the hydraulic deficiencies. Any replacement would be more than adequate for the particular design storm that we have to design for. So the proposed replacement at this site is a precast concrete box culvert. It will be longer than the existing culvert. This will allow us to improve the embankment slopes on all sides, reducing the need for maintenance of them. In doing so, we'll also eliminate the drainage swale and provide an extension of existing drainage through the new southeast wing wall. There will also be a new sidewalk placed within the project limits along the east edge of roadway to provide additional pedestrian accessibility. Looking at elevation and section, this proposed culvert will provide two 11-foot lanes with 5-foot shoulders at the culvert itself. As I mentioned before, we're going to relocate the west sidewalk up to the roadway cross section. This helps us provide a better guide rail treatment on both sides of the roadway. And then we'll have the new sidewalk on the east side as well through the project limits. Protective fence will be placed on all of the walls for pedestrian protection. The culvert itself would be placed in 3 major stages: pre-stage, construction stage, and then a post-stage. During stage 1, 2 lanes of existing traffic will be maintained and it will be shifted over to the east edge of roadway. Pedestrian traffic will be provided a temporary path along the east edge of roadway to allow for passage during this stage. The primary purpose of the stage is to open up a portion of the roadway and construct a temporary utility bridge. There are numerous utilities within the roadway cross section that will be relocated to this temporary utility bridge here in pink. It will also allow for the partial demolition of the existing culvert and the construction of a portion of the new culvert here shown in orange. During stage 2, the roadway will be closed to traffic and to pedestrian traffic. During this stage, the contractor will be opening up the remainder of the roadway to remove the existing, what's left of the existing culvert and to install the remaining portions of the proposed culvert here shown in orange. All the existing drainage would be extended through the new wing wall in the southeast corner. Here shown in brown, the new east embankment would be constructed, as well as the sidewalk here in light gray. And then the majority of the final roadway cross section will also be constructed. Once this work is complete, the roadway will be opened up to traffic again, and pedestrians will now have access along the east edge of roadway. The proposed detour for stages 2A and 2B to allow the contractor to open up the roadway and replace the majority of the culvert, as the detour is shown here on the screen, which involves Route 10, primarily Route 10, US Highway 6, Route 4, and then Route 10 again, with a couple minor connectors. It's important to note that all of these are state roads. There are alternative ways that local traffic may choose to utilize if they want to do so, but we have to sign this just for the general to consider the largest traffic that would be traveling the road, such as trucks and whatnot. The anticipated duration for the detour is 1 to 2 weeks. As design progresses, we're still very early in design. As design progresses, we'll be able to refine that a little bit more. And this detour will occur while school is not in session. With traffic opened up, it'll actually be shifted towards the east edge of the roadway for the post stage, stage 3A and 3B. This will allow the contractor or the utility companies to relocate from the temporary utility bridge here shown in pink back to within the final roadway cross section. And after which the remaining embankment will be constructed on the west side, again shown in brown. The west sidewalk will be constructed here shown in gray. And then the final course of pavement will be placed throughout the project limits. There's one additional item that will be installed as a part of this proposed project. Previously, the town of Farmington had extended sidewalks along the east edge of Route 10 down to the northern edge of where our project limits are. So as part of this project, we're installing a new sidewalk along the east edge of roadway, as you saw in the previous plates. And we're also proposing a sidewalk extension from the southern project limits down to an apartment complex approximately 275 feet south of the southern project limits to provide additional connectivity and pedestrian access. With this, we will also be relocating a crosswalk that services the apartment complex and provides access to Highland Park Market across the street. And we'll be relocating it down to the terminus of the sidewalk extension for a more appropriate and accessible crossing. For utilities for this project, there are numerous overhead and underground utilities. Within the project limits or near the culvert itself, overhead utilities will remain in place. For the sidewalk extension, there is the potential for relocating some utility poles to provide enough, a wide enough path for a sidewalk that remains within the state's right of way. This will be determined as design progresses. There are numerous underground utilities, which will be relocated temporarily to that temporary utility bridge that I had previously shown in pink. And then they will actually be relocated back to within the final roadway cross section. The underground utilities will also require possibly a relocation of a fire hydrant in the vicinity of the apartment complex, again, to accommodate the 5-foot wide sidewalk path. For this project, we would be looking at two primary environmental permits. One is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers General Permit 19, also known as self-verification form, and a Connecticut Deep General Permit for water resource construction activities. There are numerous rights-of-ways associated with this project, both existing and proposed. It's important to note that the existing state's right-of-way lines are noted here in red. For existing rights-of-ways, there are two drainage right-of-ways, both associated with those end walls that I mentioned previously. Here in blue in the northwest quadrant for the drainage outlet here. And then in the southeast quadrant here where the drainage swale was, or it's proposed to be filled in. For what's proposed as part of, under this project, a portion of the existing structure is actually outside the state's right of way. So by installing a longer culvert, there is the need to both access and maintain the portions that are constructed outside the state's right of way at the inlet and outlet. It's the minimum amount of area in order to, again, both access and maintain these facilities. There'll be slope easements required for the improved embankment slopes, again, just for the maintenance. And then construction easements, which are shown here in orange, for the contractor to access the site and perform the work. Now I'll turn it over to Kathleen from Rights Away, and she'll go through a little bit more regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So my name is Kathleen Erickson, and I'm an assistant project coordinator with the department's division of Rights of Way. Our office is responsible for acquiring property rights that are needed for transportation projects all throughout the state. As John just mentioned, this project will require the acquisition of property rights. So I'll be giving you a brief overview of what our acquisition process looks like. Before I get further into that, though, I do want to mention that the specific property impacts for this project are still being finalized, and they may change as the design progresses. Also, any required property rights will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E, as well as the Uniform Act. And if you go to the next slide, please. So the right-of-way acquisition process will begin once the design has progressed to a development milestone and all of the impacts from the project have been determined. At that point, each affected property owner will receive from our office a formal letter of intent to acquire, along with a property map which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. And you can see on the screen here a sample of what those property maps look like. Next, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights, which will be used to establish an offer of just compensation. That offer will be sent out to the property owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with the property owner to explain the project, their specific impacts to their property, as well as to go over the state's offer. The property owner will have a reasonable amount of time, which is typically around 30 days, to consider the state's offer and to enter into negotiations. Once an agreement has been reached, the department will prepare all the necessary paperwork to record the deed and the property map on the town land records. However, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to maintain the project schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. If that were to happen, the state would file a notice of condemnation in the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. From that day, the owner would then have 6 months to file an appeal if they felt that the state's offer was inadequate. Now, whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner at any time. It is important to note, though, the state will only acquire property rights that are necessary for the project. If there are any questions regarding the right-of-way acquisition process, I'm happy to answer them during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Kathleen. And just to conclude the presentation, at this time, we are anticipating construction to begin in the spring of 2027 and be completed by the fall 2027. So it's what we call a one-season project. We are currently estimating a construction cost of approximately $3,110,000, which will be paid with 80% federal and 20% state, and no funds are necessary from the town or required from the town. Please note that these are preliminary and they're subject to change. And at this point, I will turn the presentation over to Mark, and Mark be the MC for the question and answer portion of tonight's meeting. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Leslie and John. As Leslie mentioned, my name is Mark Levesque. I'm the project manager for this project with Close Jensen and Miller, and I'll be the MC for the evening. First of all, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, whether it be on Zoom, YouTube Live, or listening through the phone. The purpose of this meeting is to provide the public with an overview of the project, get feedback from the public, and answer any questions you may have. With that being said, we're now going to have a live question and answer session with the design team, and we're available to answer any questions you may have. Leslie already went over the ways you can ask a question, but I'm going to give you another review. First is by email, and that's DOT project 0051-270-276 The second is by voicemail. The phone number is 860-594-2020. We ask you include the project number, which is 51-276 with your voicemail so it gets to the appropriate project team. And third, for those who are joining us through the Zoom, they can access the live Q&A function on Zoom. There should be a tab on your Zoom screen that says Q&A, and you can just click that tab, type your question, and hit send. There's a box that this Zoom Q&A function will only be available during this live meeting, and it's not available if you're watching on YouTube Live. So if you're watching on YouTube Live, we ask you to ask questions through the email or the voicemail. We'll try to answer during this meeting, and we'll be checking both of those throughout the remainder of this meeting. The email and voicemail will be available for the next 2 weeks, and we'll be responding to those up until November 6th, 2024. I do want to mention there's a project webpage, portal.ct.gov/DOT Farmington 0051-0276. Has a lot of good information about this project, including project email and voicemail numbers. And there's also an optional post-meeting survey that we would appreciate if anyone could fill it out. The survey helps us get feedback on this meeting and how we can improve future ones. The links to all of these I've added to the chat for this Zoom meeting. And I guess that's it. Now we're going to start the live Q&A session. We do have a couple of questions that have already been asked, so it looks like you do know how to use the Q&A session, which is good. So the first one is, how high does the condition rating go? 1 through 10, 1 through 5. I'm going to let Brianna Rataco, DOT project manager, answer that question.
Thanks, Mark. And hi, everyone, and thank you for attending. So for the condition rating, the bridge condition rating scale is from 1 to 9, and 9 is excellent. So the best, and then the lowest rating it can receive is a 1, which is imminent failure condition.
Okay, thanks, Brianna. And I believe John had said that this was currently a 4. So it's poor condition.
Right, poor condition.
And I think at one point it was a 2, and they did some repairs, so it was in critical condition. So this really needs to be addressed. Thanks. We did get another question. We are at 185 Main. For the proposed sidewalk on the east side, existing trees and other landscape will be disturbed. What are the plans for protecting or relocating the existing plants? I believe John Corelli from CGM will answer that. John.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so as far as plants within the protecting and relocation of the existing plants, any areas that are disturbed by the contractor typically are treated for invasive species. The department is looking to incorporate a landscape planting plan as a part of addressing any areas that are disturbed. If you have any particular plants that you have in question that you have concerns about, I would ask you to reach out by email, provide your information and state your specific concerns, and we can look into that a little bit better for you, or more precisely at this time. But generally, any area that's disturbed, we tend to restore either with specific plantings as dictated by the department, or typical turf establishment, so that way it's you're provided back with a quality treatment afterwards.
And I would like to add that we have a landscaping design unit, and usually they'll review the plans and provide any specific planting that it fits in the area to replace what was existing that we had to remove, or the trees that are in need of we need to protect during construction. We'll do that as well.
Okay, thank you, John and Leslie. Another question. Is there an audio feature to ask questions during this presentation, or is it just through the Q&A? And I'm going to let Brianna Rataco answer that question.
Yeah, so for tonight's meeting, the only feature that's live through Zoom that's available is through the Q&A. But you can, if you prefer to talk, one-on-one, if you send an email to that email box, dotproject0051-0276 with your contact information, I can definitely give you a call if you prefer to kind of talk out your question in that way. But for this meeting, it's only available through the Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you, Brianna. And I think don't have any more questions right now. Oh, no, we did just get another one. Okay, hello. Unfortunately, I was not able to join until now. Is there a version of this presentation available after tonight's meeting? I think I can answer that. Yes, there will be on YouTube. It's currently being recorded live. Some people are watching live as we speak, and after the meeting, and that'll be available. I did add the link to that in the chat here. You can just, hopefully, if you're on this Zoom, you can copy and paste it, the link to that live session. It should work once it's once we're done. So. And you can see a lot of the DOT's presentations. If you go to that YouTube page, there's presentations from numerous projects on there. They're all kept historically since we've been doing these on Zoom and YouTube. Oh, I will. It says, please paste again since I joined late. I will paste that again. No problem. And I am going to remind everybody too that there is a post-meeting survey. Hopefully you can see that in the chat. There's a post-meeting survey, and you just click on the link and the survey should come up. I've tested it already, so it does. And you can look at that. We do have another question. Okay. Also, there's a historical stone wall in front of 185 Main. Will the wall be disturbed? John Corelli is going to answer that question. John.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so that particular wall had been flagged. As part of this process, the State Historic Preservation Office always does an analysis of natural resources in the area, and they had pointed out that wall has potential historical significance. So is the intent to not disturb that wall at this time, and a note will be placed on plans, as well as additional coordination with the State Historic Preservation Office will be completed regarding that particular item. So we are aware.
Thank you, John. Another question came in, and it looks like it got cut off, but I think we can answer most of it. The question says, where the current sidewalk ends on the east side opposite Tunix, I think it's Tunxus, how long is the sidewalk going to be added to connect with the apartment complex on the property owner at 171 Main Street? Where the current sidewalk ends, there has been talk about, and I think it was going to say development, but I think that's where it got cut off. But I think, John, you can probably speak to that, correct?
Yeah, so currently the town had extended, as you see here in purple, up to that driveway entrance about 2 years ago. And so we're essentially going to finish it to that driveway entrance, start constructing from the other side of the driveway entrance, and go all the way to the apartment complex that's about 275 feet south of the primary project limits. So as you see here, all right. So again, the town had previously constructed the section in purple that brought it to the driveway entrance for main gate, and we'll be installing the new one along the project limits here in pink, and then the sidewalk extension along the east edge of the roadway to the apartment.
Sorry, Jonathan, could you mention about the crosswalk? Or can you go back to that slide so you can show where we're proposing to move the crosswalk so it connects with the sidewalk on the other side of the road?
Correct. So currently there is a crosswalk here servicing Highland Park Market from the apartment complex, and it will be relocated to the base of the driveway for this apartment complex here, which is the end of the new proposed east sidewalk.
Hey, we actually just got one more.
Okay, I can address this last question too. What's the timing of the project projected start and end dates? So right now we're looking at starting construction in the spring of 2027 and finishing construction in the fall of 2027. There will be a 1 to 2 week period where the road will be completely closed to both vehicular and pedestrian traffic for the contractor to excavate the majority of the roadway and do the majority of the work during that period. So as we have 3 stages, the pre-stage primarily for the utility relocation, stage 2 where we close the roadway and do the majority of the culvert replacement, and then stage 3 where we open it back up to traffic, but relocate the utilities back within the roadway cross section.
And I would like to add, he's asking about, or they're asking about Tungus Street. And I just want to mention that we are not impacting Tungus Street. We're going to have a detour in place during that time. And I don't know, Jonathan, if you can bring up the detour plan again or map so they can see it. I know it's a little small. We can.
John, it might be better seeing your staging
Yeah.
that access will always be maintained to Tungus Road, right?
Correct. Yep.
So even when the detour is in place, I think, it'll say local access only or something like that.
Yeah, there will be continued access throughout construction to Tungus Street for local access. So there's only proposed road work to within the roadway in front of Tungus Street is just milling and overlaying the existing pavement to provide a transition into the new pavement section over the culvert.
All right, thanks, John. And Leslie for that answer. We're still waiting. I don't think we have questions coming in from the voicemail or email. Okay, we do have a couple more Q&A questions. I think it's one question. And I think John might be able to answer this. There's an access road called Main Gate. There's been talk by the owner, who is a developer, to build to bring a sewer line on this side of the street. Has that proposal sewer line been discussed with this project? Main Gate begins on the east side where the sidewalk currently ends.
So I believe the area that they're concerned about is this driveway entrance right here. I think that was also related to the previous question regarding the sidewalk extension. So just to kind of reiterate the first part of it, yeah, there will be sidewalks on both sides of the entrance. There's no proposed sidewalks that go up Main Gate at all. It's just to stay within the state right away and provide continuity between the northern and southern sections of Route 10. As related to the sewer line, there is an existing sewer line approximately where the west sidewalk is. It runs beneath the roadway. Initial coordination with the town didn't have any proposed, or we were not made aware of any proposed plans to make modifications to the facilities. Just as a part of our design process, we do hold utility coordination meetings. It typically would not fall under what the Connecticut Department of Transportation would handle, as that's an improvement to private facilities. But if similar work is to take place during this project or in conjunction with this project, there would be coordination that would take place, and the town at each phase of design, we're in contact with the town and know what their proposed plans are.
Thank you, John. We'll stay as long as questions are being asked. So we love the questions. Thank you, and all great ones. We never know what to expect. We never know what kind of question is going to be asked, but so these are great. And again, you can keep asking questions for 2 more weeks up until November 6th through the phone and the email. Okay. We did get another question. How do you anticipate this project will impact the waterway? Will there be more water flowing through, or does that depend on rain, et cetera? I don't know a lot about that little stream. Thank you for all your answers. Okay. I think I can start that one. So the existing culvert is severely undersized for the amount of water that that flows to the site. And we designed it for various design storms. I believe this one, because it's considered a small stream, it's a 50-year design storm that we design it to. We are not, it's going to be a larger hydraulic opening. But so what that means is the velocities will actually decrease when the storms come in through that structure, or there won't be as much, we call it pressure flow when it just builds up on one side and just kind of rips through the culvert. The downstream properties, through our hydraulic design, it's supposed to converge, meaning go back to what it was before, as soon as possible downstream. So there will not be increases in private property flows to private property or anything like that. And we have a hydraulic engineer helping us size the proposed culvert. Okay. Okay, we did get another question. Will people be able to walk from the Tunxus Street side to Highland Post Office once the road is closed to traffic? I think John is going to answer that question.
Okay, so during the pre-stage, there's going to be a temporary access on the opposite side of Tunxus Street, but going into stage 2, where we are closing the roadway, again, that's going to be for the 1 to 2 week duration. The contractor essentially needs the entire work area to complete the work. They'll be doing deep excavation to get out the existing culvert. Again, it's under 15 feet of fill, and then you have to go beneath that to remove the existing structure and to place the proposed structure. So for that 1 to 2 weeks, there will not be any pedestrian or vehicular access through the project limits.
Thank you, John. Love to see the questions. Waiting to see if we have any through our phone. For those watching on YouTube live, and or if they've sent an email, again, we can answer those. Keep asking, and we'll answer those over the next 2 weeks. Once again, there's a web page. I'm going to refresh that in the chat so it shows up for everybody.
Jonathan, could you repeat the answer to the last question? We got a comment saying that couldn't hear it.
Sure. So the previous question was related to will people be able to walk from Tunxus Street side to Highland Park Post Office once the road is closed to traffic? So the response was during the pre-stage where there's traffic shifted, there will also be temporary pedestrian access across the street from Tunxus Street, and it will provide access through the project limits. However, once we enter stage 2, where the roadway is closed, the contractor will have to utilize the entire work area to do the deep excavation to remove the existing culvert and to install the proposed culvert. Again, we're looking at a total excavation of like 15 to 25 feet throughout the project limits, so that would be impossible to keep access for the pedestrians and vehicles during that stage. So that's why we're limiting it to the 1 to 2 weeks. And then once that work is complete, the new sidewalk will provide access on the east side of roadway for stage 3.
Thank you, John. Let us know if you couldn't hear it. We can John repeat. See if he says the same thing. But yeah, it's great. We have I see 10 questions we've had so far, and hopefully answered all of them. I think we have. I don't see any on through the phone or through email. Again, I mentioned just before that last question that I reposted the project webpage. And I'll also put the survey in there too as well. Okay, looks like we did get another question. Okay. Current animals, deer and bear, use the culvert to cross under the road. Is the new culvert bigger? So, yes, the new culvert will be bigger. I think, John, do you want to give the quick dimensions?
Sure. So the existing one is 5.5 feet by 4 feet high, so very, very small as it is, and especially with the flow height. The proposed culvert is 14 feet by 7 feet wide, so it will be significantly bigger and significantly taller than the existing.
Yeah, those must be small bears to go through the existing one. But I guess it's good. I think this will help with the wildlife passage through the site, not have to go on the road. Okay, and again, the screen shows the ways to ask our questions. We appreciate them all. Oh, did get another question. Also, there have been times where the beavers have blocked the entrance so that property on this side east has been flooded. So this should help, correct? I'll start. Yes, it should help. I don't know that we've ever been able to completely stop beavers from doing their work. This will be a much larger channel for them at the bridge site for them to build the dam across. I have seen them build some pretty impressive dams before, but so I think if they're building it right at the culvert, yes, it will be an improvement. If they're doing it, upstream or downstream, those conditions aren't really going to change. Not sure if anyone else has anything to add to that. And I do want to remind everyone the question and answer duration will be open until November 6th, 2024, by email and by phone. Email is dotproject0051-0276@ct.gov. The phone number is 860-594-2020. And please mention project 51-276 when you leave a voicemail, so that it goes to the correct project team. And I do want to mention also the post-meeting survey that will help us improve future meetings. And I've put those all in the chat. I also added civil rights information. There's a Title 6 page on the DOT website, and there's a link to that in the chat, and it's shown here in the screen. I think the last one might have been a comment, not a question. So about the beavers again, just that they do cause havoc. I have seen it and completely flood project sites, and they're really good engineers too, I will tell. I'll give it another minute, and if there are no more questions, we may wrap up. We appreciate the positive feedback. This is great. So thank you all for joining us. It's important to know what's important to our residents that are affected by these projects. And I don't see any questions through the phone or through email. So I think we're going to wrap this up. I just want to remind everyone, email, it's DOT project 0051-0276@ct.gov. Phone number 860-594-2020. Project 51276 should be mentioned in your voicemail. I appreciate everyone joining us tonight. We had some attendees on YouTube Live and Zoom. People can watch this after. This will be at the link I posted in the chat. You can also just search on YouTube. I think you could search on 51276 and it'll come up. It should come up for DOT project 51276. And again, we'll be answering questions up until November 6th, 2024. And all of this information, including the link to the YouTube Live, will be available at the project website. That's portal.ct.gov/DOT Farmington 0051-0276. We want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us. We appreciate you being here, getting your questions and your feedback. Well, thank you and good night.